This is TechKnow, a show about innovations that can change lives.
The science of fighting a wildfire.
We're going to explore the intersection of hardware and humanity, but we're doing it in a unique way. This is a show about science by scientists. Let's check out our team of hardcore nerds. I'm Phil Torres, I'm an entomologist. Tonight, from base camp, we're on the scene of a raging wildfire. Now, the scientists who go directly in the path of a firestorm. Their cameras actually consumed by flames. What they're learning could save lives. Then, Dr. Shini Somara is a mechanical engineer. Tonight, her undersea interview with an exploring legend. Fabian Cousteau follows his famous grandfather under the sea.
Apparently they're having a good time out there.
Marita Davison is a biologist specializing in ecology and evolution. That's our team. Now let's do some science.
Hey guys, welcome to TechKnow. I'm Phil Torres, joined today by Marita Davison and Dr. Shini Somara. Guys, I've got some stats for you. California is currently having the driest year in 90 years. Over 60% of the West is in a drought. Now, when it's that dry, there's one danger that really comes to mind, and that is wildfires. As common as these are, it hasn't been until recent years that scientists have the tools to understand how they move and how to safely fight them.
California's governor has declared a state of emergency because of a fast-moving wildfire.
I'm going to make sure that the resources are deployed.
Summer 2014, and America's West is under fire, making national TV headlines for both the size and ferocity of the burns.
Fire whorls emerging from the parched hillside.
We're seeing near unprecedented drought, and so what that means is we've seen the beginning of fire season much earlier. Some even say that last fire season truly never ended, and we're going to probably see this fire season extend much longer than normal.
This is the first day that we're on the scene, but crews are 6 days into their battle. I meet Fire Command at the July Complex Post. This is Fire Camp, where tactical decisions are made and firefighters rest before returning to the fire line. When I arrive, new resources are being called in to fight 4 major wildfires in the area.
What's at stake here?
Numerous homes. As the fire comes down into the front country, there's approximately 360 homes out there. There's also the infrastructure of power lines. There's agricultural land with livestock, and so there's numerous things.
At the northwest edge of the log fire, most residents are trying to get away from the flames. But a team of wildfire researchers here are actually trying to get ahead of its path.
Dan Jimenez is the team leader. He and his crew have been chasing fires since the spring, zigzagging all over the country as new blazes break out.
So your team's been to 6 or 7 fires, and how many have you gotten data from?
We have gathered data on 3 incidents.
So not every fire you go to is a win.
Absolutely not.
On this deployment, Dan's team is gathering field data to help improve firefighters' safety zones.
What is a fire safety zone?
By definition, a safety zone is an area where personnel can safely position themselves and be out of harm's way of the fire environment.
How important is a fire safety zone?
That's critical.
In 2013, 19 firefighters died battling an Arizona wildfire. Investigators think when the fire made a quick run towards them, the hotshot team was cut off from an escape route, making it impossible to get to the safety zone. To set a safety zone, the general rule of thumb is find the highest flame height, then multiply that height times 4. That's the minimum distance a firefighter needs to be from the flames to be in a safety zone. But veteran firefighters are quick to attest there are more environmental factors that need to be considered. That's why command posts have a meteorologist and a fire analyst on site working side by side to predict the unpredictable, what a fire is about to do.
So when you're out there on the line, how does it all work? Is there any actual calculation done, or is it looking at these various variables and kind of eyeballing it?
They don't really necessarily do a calculation. They're just going off gut instinct. There's a few other variables that are at play.
Wildfires can burn at incredible speeds, as this footage from the Texas Wildlife Department shows. Flames have been tracked at up to 100 miles per hour.
Started to get some real good progress on the log fire. The north edge is looking really pretty quiet, pretty solid.
Day 2 of our mission begins with the daily 6 a.m. briefing. This includes the important weather forecast.
The good thing is the winds are going to remain relatively light.
So, as crews leave camp setting out for the fire line, all of this information will have to remain at the forefront of their minds as they fight to contain acres of burning land while keeping themselves and each other safe.
Do you think the creation of fire safety zones is good enough right now?
I think there's room for improvement. You know, anytime we're talking about safety, there's never enough that can be done. We can always try to create a safer environment for firefighters to work. It's inherently a dangerous activity, and anything we can do to minimize that risk is a good thing.
Now, you guys just saw the incredible potential and power of a wildfire.
Yeah, Phil, this is really red-hot fluid dynamics. I read somewhere that fires can travel as ferociously fast as from 1 acre to 1,000 acres in 1 hour.
And what surprised me is that we're watching these guys going in to fight the fire that are going in with little to no intel, and it seems like that's about to change.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it's been done for decades. It's always been kind of word of mouth of just figuring out ways to look at a fire and kind of analyze the situation. But you can't always trust what your brain is going to say under those types of conditions. That's why these guys are so motivated at the lab to come up with the right equation, the right way to figure out a fire safety zone. And that's what we'll see now.
California firefighters are making gains on the nearby log fire, one of 5 wildfires burning in the region.
Right now, we're following the research team into the log fire.
Meantime, this research team suits up, actually seeking the biggest, fastest moving flames they can find. I was allowed to join them.
So you call putting on the yellow?
Get all yellered up.
Get all yellered up.
Next, Dan and his crew, which includes 2 members of the elite smoke jumpers team, will scout unburned areas. They're trying to predict a path where dynamic fire will burn through.
It's obvious by looking at the interior that they had some pretty dynamic fire behavior. They had some big runs, but the last couple of days, since we've been here, we've had an inversion set over us. This fire's just doing its thing. It's doing a great job of backing down, skunking around, but we're not getting really big runs or big torching, and that's what we need.
Still, we give it a shot, each hauling what they call a package. That's a series of sensors to collect data, coupled with a camera to record fire behavior. All of it housed in a specially designed burn-proof metal box.
So you have to actually aim this box at the fire.
We try to. Doesn't mean if it comes from the flank it won't trip, but most of the time we're trying to get heading fire.
All right, so now that we're here, how does this area look?
Yeah, it looks good. This is a perfect spot for us. We can probably go ahead and start setting up.
So it's got good slope. What are you seeing when you look around here?
Lots of fuel.
Once a package is laid out, the research team hopes the fire conditions cooperate and flames will actually burn through this box.
When it does, the results are dramatic.
This has been in a fire.
It's been in a fire.
Now we got to get the data out of it.
Yes,
What's
that's
the
right.
next step?
We put these sensors on fires, try to measure how much energy is released from the fire, and then correlate that with burn injury levels.
Brett Butler is the lead researcher on the Fire Safety Zone project. He's based at the Rocky Mountain Research Center in Missoula, Montana.
Now, this is the hard data that you guys bring in from the field.
Yes.
What is the end goal of this?
The end goal of this is to help us to design computer simulations using a fire model. But we didn't know until we had these measurements, how do you set this parameter? How hot does a fire need to be? So these measurements help us so that we're accurately simulating what's happening out in actual conditions.
The prestigious Fire Science Lab, run by the U.S. Forest Service, is committed to understanding fire behavior. Through countless controlled burns and deployments, new safety models and tools are constantly being created.
So in theory, that little circuit board on the front of that camera should turn the camera on.
This test is to improve the sensors on the fireproof cameras that recorded these dramatic images of the burn.
We really need more measurements in slope and wind. That's difficult because there's safety issues. You know, we have to get out in front of the fire, put this equipment out, and then walk away. But naturally, it's dangerous conditions. The ultimate goal is to come up with better information that can make firefighters safer.
But in this actual condition, Dan Jimenez's team has found the fires aren't ideal for a package burn. The firefighters' success at reducing fire speed and ferocity is not conducive to collecting their data.
So you need some big flames.
Well, that's certainly part of the equation, but we need access. We need the green light from the team. We need alignment with weather and wind and many things, but that factors into giving us big flames, yes.
So the team is breaking camp, having gotten new information about some possible fires in Oregon. They're hitting the road again, hoping to get in front of the next blaze.
It sounds challenging. It sounds frustrating at times.
Absolutely.
Why do you guys keep pushing forward?
We feel like we're doing a great job, and we feel like there's a need. We're extremely capable of getting this data. Research often has many failures before it has successes.
And you guys are working to save lives.
I hope so. I mean, we certainly are putting our efforts towards guidelines, and those guidelines are really safety is the driver.
So what do you guys think? From the front line of a fire to a lab in Montana?
I'm actually blown away with the amount of research work they've got cut out for them, because are they trying to specifically identify safety zones, or are they trying to understand how fires spread?
You know, one of their key questions is that safety zone. So it's not just looking at how big they need to be, but yeah, how fires spread. That's why they did those simulations of saying, okay, if there's a little valley, a fire is going to spread really fast up there, so clearly not a good place to put a safety zone.
And how important is it to be able to simulate a fire in a lab setting when fires out in the field are unpredictable and, yeah, really hard to deal with?
You know, the lab does help them answer some questions. It can really help them kind of break it down, simplify it, and predict what they'll see when they go out in the field.
It's one giant experiment, isn't it? They must get so excited when an actual natural fire happens, when the rest of us are actually quite terrified.
Yeah, you know, it's a mixed bag, because obviously they love going out there to a fire, but safety is their priority. That is their motivation behind all their research.
Now, one thing I am dying to know is how on earth do you design a device, an instrument that can withstand that kind of heat?
You know, they showed me some examples of things that didn't quite make the cut. They definitely had some melted instruments out there, but they learned they just had to go with steel. They had some aluminum tripods that melted, and yeah, tried and true, at the end of the fire, can it withstand 3,000 degrees? What they have apparently can.
They really seem like the black box of firefighting.
Yeah, that's a really interesting analogy. They can see what's happening on a millisecond by millisecond basis.
So on TechKnow, we did a story on the big Yosemite fires, and I got to be on the front lines of that fire. So I saw firsthand how difficult it is to work with a fire and to study a fire. And what really drove home to me was with the potentially life-threatening setting, it's important to have these remote eyes on the situation. In that case, they had eyes in the sky through drones, and I'm wondering how important is it to have those eyes on the ground for these scientists?
You know, that's a great point, because I asked him what his ideal way of fighting a fire would be, or getting to know a fire would be. And he would love to have eyes in the sky, eyes on the ground, basically a coordinated network of sensors and decision makers that can help just figure out where that safety zone needs to be, what areas they should focus on, and hopefully all in the palm of a hand. These are the guys who are at the top of this wildfire research in the entire world. It's really great to see how motivated they were. Now, Shinny, you got to do a very interesting interview under the sea.
Yeah, Skype is a beautiful thing, and I got to interview the grandson of Jacques Cousteau, Fabien, who was actually 60 feet underneath water. Let's take a look.
Jacques Cousteau, the legendary master of sea exploration, gave the world a glance into the depths of human possibilities underwater. Cousteau once said, the best way to observe a fish is to become a fish. His grandson, Fabien Cousteau, took that advice to heart. Fabien and a small team of other divers called Aquarius, the world's last undersea marine laboratory, home for 31 days. I got a chance to chat with Fabien about his latest research in Aquarius.
Okay, so Fabien, your location in Florida Keys, is that crucial to the scientific research that you're collecting?
This area is crucial for several reasons. First of all, it's in a subtropical environment, which is conducive to working long hours, but also it's in the crosshairs of some of these major issues, both on the level that we're only 9 nautical miles offshore, where there's a lot of human activity.
So that's incredible. I mean, what is the focus of their research down there on Aquarius?
So we're looking at both climate change and acidic and pollution-related issues. So climate change-related issues are apparently they're having a good time out there.
What are they doing?
They're supposed to be at the bottom, looking at sponges and corals, and setting up some of our high-end equipment to monitor in both microscopic and macroscopic fashion some of the science and data that we're collecting from those sponges and those corals, to be able to bring back a better image of what's happening on the pollution runoff issues that we're having all around the world, especially here, but also with regard to climate change, which is a global issue, and the acidification problems, amongst other things, that are affecting our coral reefs, as well as other critters, other biodiversity in these undersea cities, if you will.
One of the major obstacles of studying the deep sea are short dive times. In Aquarius, Fabien and his team have the luxury of living on the ocean floor, never having to resurface.
The point is to be out there in the water column diving as much as you can in a day. It allows us the ability to dive 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. We're at 3 atmospheres, meaning we're subject to 3 times the pressure that you are on land, and that gives us the ability to go out into the water as long as we need to.
Although the research opportunities at this depth are fantastic, the actual living facilities on Aquarius are a little cramped, as Fabien showed us.
We've got Ryan and Mark, our habitat technicians. There they are right there. Behind Mark is our bunk room. That's where the 6 of us sleep, with the world's best view at the end. There's a viewport at the end. We generate our own air supply from the surface buoy that comes down here. We have 3 days of air supply, as well as battery power. Right here, we've got our galley, which is where we cook. It's hot water and microwave only. As the partial pressure of oxygen down here would exacerbate any kind of fire. This is the kind of food that we eat. It's in these freeze-dried packets. Basically, they're pre-prepared food that you add hot water to and have a meal. I'm here in the dry lab, which is full of equipment right now, and the wet porch is the place where we get in and out of the habitat. Basically, our front door to the ocean world.
The opportunities to learn on Aquarius still harken back to Jacques Cousteau's Calypso.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. The days of Calypso, my grandfather's ship, was the staging grounds and the character, I guess, for 50 years of ocean exploration. And a lot of the vision that he had of things to come have actually come to fruition, and we're using those things today.
Fabien stresses the fact that there is an urgent need for more ocean research, insisting that less than 5% of the sea has been explored.
As a matter of fact, Aquarius, this habitat, is the station that the NASA astronauts use to train before they go into outer space, because it's so similar to the conditions that they're going to be subject to. Space exploration and inner space exploration are of paramount importance to be able to further our knowledge of all those technologies and all those cures for those things that ail our species.
It took Fabian and his team 18.5 hours to resurface and adjust back to a land-dwelling atmosphere, setting a new record for the longest stationary research mission underwater. Fabian continues his calling to bring more awareness to the importance of ocean research.
I think this has been a monumental success on multiple levels.
People really do have a passion for the oceans if engaged. It's all about education. You know, I hate to default back to my grandfather, but since we've been talking about him a lot, he used to say, people protect what they love. How can people protect what they don't understand? And hopefully we were able to let a few more understand why the oceans are so special, so magical, so mysterious, and so fragile and such an integral part of our lives.
And I just love seeing that this legendary family name is carrying on in such an inspiring way.
It is amazing how this curiosity for deep sea is just ingrained in their DNA. I mean, it's just, everyone in the family seems to be involved in underwater exploration. But with that many family members actually spending their careers exploring this stuff, only 5% of the ocean has been mapped out, really.
You saying we need more Cousteaus?
Yeah. Well, and you're right. It's really important that the sea, the ocean, is pretty much the final frontier in terms of understanding how the planet works, at least from an ecological perspective. It's really important and really difficult work, but I'm glad they're doing it.
That's why I find it so important that Fabian actually does throw himself into the experiment and become almost like a guinea pig. I think it really adds weight to the research that he's doing.
Rita, you've worked a lot in conservation and big ecosystem analyses. How important are the oceans?
Well, think about it. The oceans cover 2/3 of our planet, so they don't have a small impact, and they are important in terms of regulating climate, in terms of providing important sources of protein for people to eat. I mean, the list goes on and on. So doing this type of research is really important.
It is more challenging to appreciate just how important this research is, and it's a bit similar to space research. A lot of people don't often appreciate just how much science we get from doing research in space, and it's the same with aquanautics.
You know, I always think of space, the final frontier, but there are so many of those final frontiers here on Earth, too, that we have yet to explore. I really feel like we covered both ends of science today, from fighting fires above to discovering the oceans below. It was a really fun episode today, you guys, and if you want to see more like it, be sure to tune in next time here on TechKnow.
Dive deep into these stories and go behind the scenes at aljazeera.com/TechKnow. Follow our expert contributors on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and more.